Grand Rising. Today is January the 13th, 2023. This is Headlines with Patriot News Network. So we have a lot of interesting things to talk about today. So we're going to jump right into it. I hope you got to join us yesterday for our 3 o'clock show. Had a guest on the show, really good show. If you didn't get a chance to watch that, please go back and watch that episode. This is one way to help us get our message out there. Please share this podcast so that we can continue to grow. We are averaging on growth about 750 new followers a week. So we are moving along. I appreciate you guys sharing and spreading the word. So definitely really happy to see that kind of growth. Know that we do this every day to reach people. We're definitely not in the phase of making money or anything like that at this point. But we do this just to make sure that we spread the word as much as we can. I feel like that's our duty, is to get the information out to people as much as possible. So I'm going to jump right into it. The first thing I want to talk about here is wokeism. As we've heard before, everything that goes woke turns to you know what, right? So this is a very interesting story right out of the gate, right? Let's see here. This is UNC Chapel Hill. They have an art club that welcomes all students except for the white ones, right? So they have this program here. It's they have different creative clubs, and you are allowed to join them as long as you are not white, right? So these groups are for everybody except for white people. The club opens its colorfulness to only go so far. It's only for artists who aren't white. That's what the director of it says. It's to me, it's very interesting that people can address it like this and say something like this, because if you flipped that word and you put a different race in there, Black, Chinese, you would be a racist, you would be a xenophobe. But as long as it's white, it seems to be okay. The newspaper, the school newspaper, is, I think, the idea of Earth Tones, which is the name of the group, is just to celebrate the brown people in our community and just pay homage to our beautiful color spectrum that we create. Now, of course, that's not all, right? Boston Colleges hosted a debate for all students except whites. Dreadlocked professor says white people aren't allowed to have his hairdo. Harvard hosts a Shakespearean extravaganza, but only for Black people. For Lent, a Chicago church is fasting from whiteness. That's right, folks. So it's not just in the colleges. It is reaching into religion as well. Public library. So this is a city-run or state-run, I guess you could say, either one. Public library hosts a dance class for the elderly. No white people allowed, right? So we have it at the city level, we have it at the religious level, and we have it at the school level, right? The college level. All-inclusive University Cultural Center hosts a barbecue intended for everyone but white people. Harvard funds No Whites Allowed music album following Black students' excruciating year, right? That's in Harvard. And California College approves electronic security system to bar white males from non-white safe space. Non-white safe space. I'm not really sure what that is. Now, this is something that's interesting right after I saw this, right? I saw this was put up by a parent. Very interesting. It says a poor, heartbroken parent posted this with the caption, 2 years at a university, and they taught my beautiful daughter to hate everything. On the left, that's her right before she went to college. Just looks like a wholesome young lady, very, conservatively dressed, hair nice and, neat. And then on the right, I guess we would say that she's just expressing herself these days, right? It really truly is just disgusting to see what they try to teach at these schools, what their agenda is, and it's not for the betterment of society, right? This is not for the betterment of society. So Penn State professor, as we continue with the wokeism, tells students that they need to watch gay porn to confront that they might be bisexual. So it's a sociology professor at Penn State. He suggests that during a class of straight students that they should watch gay porn in order to open up their sexuality. So his lecture is from Sociology 119. It's a course at the end of the fall semester. And Penn State sociology professor Sam Richards challenged the students to watch same-sex pornography to confront the fact that they might be aroused by it. And Richards claimed that that every single person has bisexual feelings. And that each individual might be more comfortable being bisexual. You just don't know it yet. See, this is something that's happening with you, that somebody else is telling you that's happening with you. You just don't know it yourself, right? So if you're straight, you watch gay or lesbian porn, you see how quickly you feel aroused. He said in his lecture, originally held on December 6th, via Fox News. Interesting. And how you can control that, you realize that, can't say that word. I could be sexualized by people who are just like me. So we're all the same. He claims that we are all at the same level of non-binary. I still don't know what that word means. I guess you don't identify as anything, maybe. Richards added in what he claimed was a summary of the views of many sociologists, right? So we're all very much easily bisexual. We just don't know that. It is clear to what research, nobody knows what research Richard is referring to, right? But there was a 2015 study that came out by Cornell University that claimed both men and women were aroused when they watched porn of the same sex, right? So here you have a university, Cornell University. Instead of teaching these kids about life skills, about I don't know, bookkeeping, loan, I don't know, whatever they need to teach them, depending on what their degree is going to be in. We're having studies done about watching porn. I mean, that pretty much tells you why we're going in the wrong direction, right? It really truly is. He continued to reiterate in laughter in the class. He started picking on specifically straight students, mainly men, telling them to watch gay porn and see if you feel that feeling. If you feel that feeling, look in the mirror and say, maybe I'm just feeling some things that I'm just afraid to release. And maybe you release that and maybe you'd be surprised. Maybe you'd actually be fine with being more bisexual. You have to ask yourself, why is there such a push for this? Why? Well, of course we know why, right? Because it says that homosexuality is not acceptable in the Bible, right? So we know that the agenda is to go against the Bible. That's what the agenda is, right? So when you look at this, it becomes it's mainly a religious deal, but of course people are going to say it's just freedom of expression. But you'd have to ask yourself, if somebody is gay, what's wrong with them if they choose to do that, right? Why does that need to be pressed on to everybody else, right? So that's why you have to really ask yourself in that question. So as we continue with more wokeness, brownies in Canada, right? This is like the Girl Scouts. They have you reach a level brownie before you become a Girl Scout, which they have a different name. It's Girls Guides of Canada up there. And after 100 years, right? That the GGC has been around for 78 years. They've had a division called the Brownies. So 3/4 of a century over, they've had this division called Brownies. And now, you guessed it. This is just simply a racist term. So they can't do it anymore. They can't use it anymore. And of course, they are going to have to change that name after 3/4 of a century. And I guess in things like this, you begin to wonder, where does it stop? How do we appease everybody? You see, that's the part I'm getting confused at, because everything has to change to appease somebody or some thing, right? Or something or somebody or some town or some this or some that. So I'm wondering, how do you appease everybody? Do you just change every single thing every single second somebody doesn't like it? And then, of course, who makes the decision that they don't like it, right? Who makes the decision that they don't like it? Yeah. So the wokeism continues. Artist MIA loses her festival gig. Now, why did she lose her festival gig? Well, she went on to Candace Owens. She's a British rapper. She is known as MIA. She lost her gig at a 2-day UK music festival that is in August. It's called Field Day. And she went on to Candace Owens. Now, this 47-year-old singer appeared on the Owens Show on November 1st. And during the show, Owens said MIA has been described by legacy media as an anti-vaxxer, as a terrorist sympathizer, right? Because if you're an anti-vaxxer or you're not happy about the way things are going, you're a terrorist. And an out-of-touch elitist who's suffering from terminal foot-in-the-mouth syndrome. Now, she's out-of-touch elitist because she has money and she doesn't agree with the agenda, right? So on January 10th, the rapper tweeted a message that she said was from the festival, and they were informing her that she had been removed from the event over her online comments, which could be viewed as being quite contentious, right? So the message said that her remarks would make it very hard for the festival to continue with her following, her set on Candace Owens. So after discussing it with AEG, so what I would encourage is conservatives look to big concerts that you're going to go to if you still support that kind of thing, which I do not. But if you are going to support concerts and still go to them, I maybe would look up and make sure AEG, if they're putting it on, maybe I wouldn't go. That's just me. I'm not going to continue to support this insanity, right? So the consensus is that the light of the online activity, we cannot continue with the offer. So the message to MIA added that we have not taken the decision lightly, but we must consider the wide risk to the festival and its stakeholders, right? So they feel like if they keep her on the ticket, it's going to mess with their sales, right? With their money, right? So what this is always about is the money, right? So if AEG is putting on a concert, I'm definitely not going. I don't know if you're going to go, but I will not be attending anything. Now, again, like I said, I'm not really going to attend any concert that's out there because I'm not paying money to people that are woke. Just not going to happen. This is another sad deal. Lisa Marie Presley, the only living child of Elvis Presley, has passed away at the age of 54 years old. And yes, it was from full cardiac arrest that she had in her home. They were able to get her to, she was in Calabasas, California, and they received a call that someone was having a cardiac arrest. Of course, that was Lisa Marie Presley. And they arrived. They were able to administer treatment to stabilize her there at home. They took her to a hospital in nearby West Hills, and unfortunately, she did pass away. A lot of people were saying she looked like she was on drugs at the Golden Globes. I went back and looked at that. I didn't really see that. So, I didn't really see that. I'm sorry. I see a lot of Botox and stuff, but I just didn't see that. I just didn't see it. I don't know what people were looking at drawing that conclusion. I do not know if she had the jibby jab, but once again, this is another heart attack, as we've seen multiple headlines every day, more and more and more. So was she jabbed? I do not know, but one can draw a conclusion that it's definitely possible, right? So now we have something really interesting to dive into. And let's take a little look at this.
Biden says documents with classified markings from his time as vice president have been found in his personal library at his home in Wilmington, Delaware. It's along with other documents found in his garage. This follows the discovery of roughly 10 documents last year at his D.C. think tank known as the Penn Biden Center. The president was informed about that discovery on November 2nd. The Justice Department and a Republican House committee are investigating.
Well,
I would like to follow up on
isn't
Patrick's
that
question on the thanks for you.
so? I This is the third, by the way. This is from what I understand so far. This is the third set of documents that have come up, and not only this, as you heard, what he said was he was made aware of this in November, right? November 2nd. So this happened prior to the midterm elections, right? So that's interesting. Okay. Now, don't have any fear because Attorney General Merrick Garland, he's on it. He's assigned special counsel to investigate Joe Biden for the documents. And so we have to have no fear, right? Now, who is it that he assigned? In the beginning, you will know that he, on the first set of documents that came with the Penn Biden Center at whatever college that's at, he assigned attorney John Lausch to conduct an initial investigation at the Penn Biden Center, right, from those documents. Now that more have been added, well, who did they bring in for this? Robert Hur, right? So he was appointed by President Trump to investigate Biden, right? So he was appointed by former President Donald Trump. Now this is a guy who's going to investigate. Now, here's what's interesting. Donald Trump appointed Robert Hur and put him in this position. Now, do you remember? I'll jump to that in just a second. I'll get to that in just a second. Now, Hank Johnson, he wants to jump on record by saying he thinks somebody might have planted this stuff on Biden, right? Because this is just crazy. This is just crazy. I mean, somebody had to have planted this stuff on him. I mean, Biden couldn't have done this himself. Now, I think when he said that when it happened the first time, this might have went over. Maybe somebody did. But now that we have 3 different locations, including his home in Delaware, in his garage, maybe not so much. I'm going to go with that right there, right? All right, let's see. Snowden has some great stuff to say about this. He said that U.S. President Joe Biden has probably made off with more classified documents than many of the whistleblowers. But unlike the whistleblowers that ended up getting jailed, the former CIA and National Security Agency contractor Edward Snowden suggested on Wednesday he will see probably nothing, right? He said it's worth noting that President seems to have made off with more classified documents than many whistleblowers. And he was comparing the situation with the case of reality winner who was sentenced to 5 years for just one single document, right? So the former NSA translator was convicted in 2018 of the leaking of a report about an alleged Russian interference in, of course, the 2016 election. And that person received 5 years, one document. So this kind of goes into the thing about it's the rules for us, not for them, right? Because it always seems like if it's something a common person does, we will get held to the highest extent of the law. But if it's something that politicians do, right, or high-ranking officials, or high-ranking members of police departments, or whatever the case may be, they seem to get off on these things. The story breaks, it comes out, everybody's talking about it, and then all of a sudden it just vanishes, right? Because another 5 or 10 headlines come out and murky up the water, and then we just kind of forget about it, right? Snowden went on to say that the real scandal isn't that Biden had classified documents coming out of his socks, that because sadly they've all been doing it, right? The scandal is that the DOJ found out about it a week prior to the midterms, and they chose to suppress the story, conferring a partisan advantage. Because what do you think would have happened at the midterms if this would have come out that Biden had these documents in 3 different locations prior to the midterms? Once again, maybe kind of like the Biden laptop. Maybe if that would have came out, it would have swayed some votes. You had many, many people on the Democratic side that after being polled said had they known about the Hunter Biden laptop, they in fact would have changed their vote. So this is the second time during an election time that a story has been suppressed that would have hurt the Democrat side. Yet we're just going to chalk it up. Now, let's also bring up the fact that when Trump took documents that he declassified, right, declassified, which the president has the power to do that regardless of what you think as just a nobody in this country, right? Or I think as a nobody in this country, a president has the power to declassify the documents, point blank, period, right? Now, he received a full-on FBI raid in Mar-a-Lago. And so far, we're just being told that, yeah, Biden had these, no big deal. Here's something that I thought was extremely interesting about this particular deal is that Hunter lived at the home where his classified documents were found in the garage. Now, President Joe Biden suggested his locked garage containing his Corvette was a secure location for the latest batch of classified documents, right? So meanwhile, a new report has found that Hunter Biden lived at the address from 2018 to 2019, which is the time frame that the documents would still be in there because, of course, these come from Joe Biden's vice presidency time. Right? So Hunter, the president's very troubled son, has been accused of peddling access to his father when Joe was vice president to reach many financial benefits, right? So it's interesting that that was happened, but of course we should all be totally okay with it because we were assured by Joe Biden that it was in his locked garage with his Corvette. So I'm sure that Hunter never had any access to it. There's nothing to worry about there. And as I was stating, Robert Hur, who is now in charge of investigating this, which we should all be okay with, he is one of the officials that was who handled, participated in, or had personal knowledge of the FBI's relationship and communication with dossier author Christopher Steele. So again, they have arrived at the conclusion that the Steele dossier was a hoax. Of course, nobody was held accountable. I think the DNC, Hillary's or something with Hillary got fined $15,000, and I think that was the total extent of that. Right now, what I think is really interesting about this whole deal is, if you remember when the White House refused to disclose who was coming to see Joe Biden at his Delaware residence during the earlier stages of the COVID, right? So it's interesting that we don't have access to those logs. And then he had private information, classified information, locked up securely in his garage with his Corvette. So he probably just didn't go in the garage when those people were there. Right. So maybe that's all it is. Maybe you just didn't go in the garage when people were there. Probably didn't bring out those classified documents with people there. Probably had nothing pertaining to do with that. And I have heard some people defending this by saying that they were still sealed. But yet I have seen absolutely no proof of this. I've heard it commented one time, but I've seen no proof of this. So, all right, the U.S. stops hundreds of fleeing Cubans. Haiti by sea returns most. So this, of course, is in the state of Florida. 177 Cuban migrants were caught off the Sea of Florida to the island on Thursday, while a group of about 24 Haitians swam ashore in Miami. The Cubans were returned back to home. And the Haitians, the 25 Haitians that had traveled by sailboat, were intercepted by U.S. Customs and Border Protection and taken into custody. Now, why they sent one group back and didn't send the other group back, I'm a little confused. But of course, this whole thing confuses me about what we're doing with the border. And part of it is, you see something like that, and then you turn around and you see the DHS extends protected status to thousands of Somalis in the United States. So about 2,600 Somalis are being temporarily protected by and expand the program that will allow them to stay here, right? So, of course, Mayorkas said that his department would stretch the TPS for another 18 months and apply to immediately to the 430 Somalis that are already in the program. And it also will allow another 2,200 eligible Somalis to join, right? So another 500% increase. And of course, these 2,630 people will need to be fed, they'll need to be housed, they'll need to be clothed, they'll need to be given medical treatment. And I do need you to probably, if you're at work, I need you to quit watching this and get your butt back to work, because you need to earn money so that your taxes can go towards paying for this, right? We need to make sure that you're earning your money and giving it to the federal government so that we can pay for this. All right. Let's see, Larry, I'm going to jump on here. Republicans who are obsessed with Hunter Biden have provided succor and support to a former president who has encouraged political violence since his early rallies in 2015, has stoked hatred of minorities through lies, has used his, Larry, you're doing a great job. Maybe you should see if, CNN had to lay off a lot of people just due to their high salaries and their extremely poor ratings. It sounds like you're very good at capturing their headlines. So you may want to see what kind of availability they may have for you to be able to write some news articles over there, because it seems like you're right in line with the headlines that have a lot of accusatory verbiage in it, but lack the evidence, right? So, but see what they got over there. You might be able to get a good writing job over there. Home appliance experts, Democrats' crusades against gas stoves. You can't make this stuff up, folks. The vice president of communications and marketing for the Association of Home Appliance Manufacturers said that the Democrats' recent crusade against gas stoves has no substance or science behind it. Most of the time, what the Democrats do has no substance or science behind it. We've heard the outcry of the ban, and this is crazy, right? So is your range safe? Absolutely. We know that our products meet or exceed the industry standards that exist today. She later added, there needs to be a lot more research. There needs to be research and testing of real world products that exist in the market today and used in real life conditions. And I definitely don't agree with that. I think there's a lot of products that we have on the market that's just crap, right? In fact, most of the things that we have on the market are garbage. I remember when I was younger, my grandmother had that Sears vacuum with the metal head that was so powerful it would pick up the carpet off the floor. And if it got a hold of anything, it burned up that rubber belt because it just turned no matter what. And that smell would be in the house for about 10 hours. That vacuum she had for about 40 years. And the only thing that she ever replaced was the belt and the bag. And the only reason that she had to get a new vacuum was because they quit making the belts for that vacuum. And I remember that. She was not happy about that. And that's what kind of products this country used to build. We used to build the best product. We used to build the longest lasting product, right? Now, what we build is we actually have engineers that design products to break within a 3-year period, a 5-year period, 7-year period, so that you will, as a consumer, because we are a consumer-driven society, that you will go out and buy yet another one. I had a friend of mine bought a $1,000 washing machine. 15 months later, the motherboard went out in it, and of course, the 10-year warranty only covered the drum and the motor. And of course, it didn't cover the $1,200 motherboard that cost, ironically, more than the washer. But yeah, that's how we build products in America. Well, they're not built in America today, but that's how products are built and sold to us in America today. Now, General Petraeus is he's retired, but he definitely wants to make sure his opinion is still getting out there. So he is saying that Putin must be made to realize the war is not worth fighting. The U.S. and Western allies need to provide enough military assistance to Ukraine to make sure that the Russian President Vladimir Putin, tongue-tied there, realize that the war is no longer worth fighting. Retired U.S. Army General David Petraeus told Newsmax on Thursday night. I think Putin looks in the mirror right now, and he doesn't see what a lot of us see, which is a leader who's made a catastrophically bad decision for his country and is incurring enormous losses on the battlefield again. The estimates are 100,000 of his soldiers have been lost in the battlefield compared to 13,300 or so in 9 or 10 years of the Soviet Union's war in Afghanistan. And then what it's doing on the home front to the economy, the financial system, his inner circle, his industries, and so forth. What's really interesting about this is, Putin is selling more oil to other countries. I haven't seen a breakdown in his financial system at all. And his inner circle, the only thing that we get as far as any breakdown in that is what we see on mainstream media, which is owned by 6 corporations, and I don't trust a single one of them. Right now, what's really interesting about this is you just never know what to believe because it's always contradicting information out there. Right. So carnage, chaos, and destruction as Russia claims control of eastern Ukraine city. So here they are capturing an eastern city, and then you got Petraeus telling you that they suck and they're losing, right? So which is it? Which is it? What's really happening? Do we ever really know the truth? As a society, do we truly ever know the truth? Right? We don't. We truly don't ever know the truth, and we can't trust any news source that we think, because we turn around 1 minute and we find and we're able to discredit things that they say. That's why I think it's so important as an individual, as a person, that you get out there, you do your own digging, you do your own research, you get out there and you try to find what the real truth is, because we are constantly lied to, right? We're constantly lied to. So let's talk about the flights, all the flights that were grounded. Of course, we had all kinds of speculations going out when all the flights were grounded. Now, what they're saying is the FFA said it's just one guy's mistake. He changed one file. He was doing some routine maintenance, and he went in and swapped out a file with the wrong file, which caused the entire system to go down. Now, like I said on yesterday's broadcast, is I am kind of blown away by this, because I was under the impression that the FFA had backup to backup to backup to the backup to the backup to make sure that when you have planes flying around in the air that need to land or cross paths or whatever, you don't have a bunch of accidents if the system goes down. But apparently one thing can make the entire system go down. So do I believe that? Absolutely not. Also, I know that when you look at the website that tells you what planes are up in the air, there was an abnormal amount of military planes up in the air during this time that it happened, when it happened, that went up immediately or very, very quickly after. I have also seen that in the Philippines, this happened last week, I believe it was. Now, if you go back and read the reason for that, they said it was because of a possible volcanic eruption. I haven't ever heard of a entire flight system be put down on the ground because of a possible volcanic eruption. But I don't live near a volcano, so I may be wrong about that. Just like I've never heard of somebody changing out one file in the system and the entire FFA site going down. I have not ever seen that as well. So the last thing I'm going to touch on is Illinois. The purge started there January 1st. They have the no cash bond. You can actually commit second-degree murder in Illinois, and if they do not think that you are a flight risk, they may they will send you home with an ankle bracelet on. If you decide to leave your home, the police cannot come looking for you for 48 hours. That way it gives you a chance to return back to your home. Can't make this up, right? So several Illinois sheriff's departments on Wednesday that said they would refuse to comply with a Democrat Governor J.B. Pritzker's new gun law signed in this week, which immediately bans the manufacture or possessions of dozens of rapid fire rifles, pistols, 50 caliber guns, and some attachments. He signed in the Protect Illinois Community Act. So they signed in a Protect Illinois Community Act that bans certain rapid fire, rifles and pistols. But if you commit second-degree murder, you can go home with an ankle bracelet. Does that make any sense at all? Okay. All right. Just checking. So, gosh, this is hard to even read. I'm signing in the legislation tonight so that it can take effect immediately. So many Republican lawmakers oppose the legislation, saying it would do nothing to prevent crime, and it counters rulings by U.S. Supreme Court involving Second Amendment rights. The United States Supreme Court has already ruled that it's unconstitutional to take away or enact these laws because, a lot of people, when they talk about the Second Amendment right, the Democrats go immediately to hunting. Nothing in the United States Constitution says anything at all about hunting. Nothing. It says that it protects your rights. It is for protection against people breaking into your property and against tyranny. That's what they're for, right? The sports shooting and the hunting, and that's just a byproduct of having one. So many of the sheriff's departments said they will not enforce this in Illinois. And I want to make sure that you understand something. You need to speak to your local sheriff's department. You need to find out where they stand with what's going on, because I want you to know something. The sheriff's department is the last line of defense. They are the highest law of the land in your state, in your community. Nobody, not even the feds, is a higher law than your local sheriff. Your local sheriff is elected by the people to protect the people. They can deputize anybody they want, and they are the highest law of the land in your county. So you need to talk to your local sheriff and find out where he stands, and make sure he stands in the right spot. So we will see you guys at 3:00 for Just Thinking. Thank you for joining us this morning, and we look forward to seeing you at 3. I hope y'all have a wonderful